spectacular show.
Do you think he's got better since the Fury fights? Because 24 rounds with Tyson Fury, right? You know, and he's won a lot of those rounds. So could he have got better?
I think he's a little bit worn. Those two fights with Fury and the fights with me and everyone, they've all taken a little bit out of him. Now I'm gonna make. I've got to know what I've got to do. I've got to make him old on a night. Like they say, you can turn a guy old in one night in a fight. And that's what I've got to do.
You know, that's what they'll say. If you do get your way, they'll say Usyk got old overnight.
Who cares what they say? Just getting all the belts and doing my job and getting victories is all that I care about. This will be a spectacular thing. The whole world will stop. Not just England, but America. All over the world, this will go out to with the whole boxing world and everything else. And yeah, let's create history.
And those are the words of Daniel Triple D Dubois as he feels that Oleksandr Usyk is a bit worn now. And he put his 2 cents in. His fight, along with the Tyson Fury fights and then the fights that he's had, has taken a bit out of him. And his job to make him old overnight. And let me counterpunch. I think, you know, that saying, old overnight, I don't think has anything to do with anyone else. With my counterpunch, you know. I think Daniel Dubois, you know, needs to go out and do his job. I think, I don't know if he cares, but I think that between him and Dev, the interviewer there from Queensberry, you know, and Ring Magazine, I think it was the wrong approach, and I think it was the wrong words to say. You know, he's a bit worn, or that's what people will say if Daniel beats him, you know. And Daniel says he doesn't care, which I don't think he really does. I think Daniel will look at that as a retribution, an avengement, and, you know, and he should, you know. I just think based on how the fight goes, if Usyk looks slow, if Usyk looks worn, if Usyk doesn't look the same, if he looks like he's that worn, because I do believe he's worn. I do believe every fight takes something out of him. Okay, and I've been saying that since 2021. I've been saying that. But I think that if Daniel beats Oleksandr Usyk, it's going to have to be, you know, something spectacular. He says, well, the whole world is going to stop. Well, it depends on how you beat him, you know, because if he's that worn and if he's not like he was and he does and he is old that night on the day, that means you really didn't participate in anything. That means Father Time beat him, you know, other than you, versus you doing what you did to do that. I mean, you were a live body in there. And I think Daniel's going to come with something different, maybe. He's going to come with confidence and more belief. But Oleksandr Usyk losing to Daniel Dubois a second time around and he looks bad, people, it won't be what you think it is, you know. And I think Daniel will still feel like Tommy Gunn, you know, in the Rocky V, if you guys remember, you know, when he did get the heavyweight championship of the world, and, you know, comes to find out nobody really cared because, you know, people were looking at something else besides his victory, you know. And I think that something else would be that Oleksandr Usyk has already beaten Daniel Dubois. And we've seen this before. And we've seen Oleksandr Usyk having the ability to put the punches together to make Daniel Dubois submit. Not only just beat him, he made him quit. He did some Vasily Lomachenko shit. Bars. Right? So I don't really think that it would be what he thinks it's going to be. You know, again, he's going to feel like Tommy Gunn, you know, Tommy Morrison. Man, ain't nobody's puppet. Ain't no bad boy's puppet. I'm the best man in the world. I'm the heavyweight champion. You know what I mean? And he will have to go through that. But I think looking deeper with Daniel Dubois, if he beats Oleksandr Usyk and Oleksandr Usyk looks shitty, he won't get the credit, but that's a good thing. And I'm going to tell you why it's a good thing. Because you're going to always have to strive for the approval. You won't be looked at as an AJ. You won't be looked at as a younger, smaller Oleksandr Usyk fighting the bigger dudes. You won't be looked at like that. You will have to do something else to validate yourself. You're going to then have to fight Parker. And then if you fight and beat Parker, then you'll start getting that juice, that respect, those stripes that you were looking for, that he's thinking he's going to get in this fight if he beats him. Okay? That's what's going to happen. Then he fights Aguet Caballo. You know, and then he goes to war with Aguet Caballo. You know what I mean? And then somehow Tyson Fury comes back saying, I'm the Gypsy King, right? And then he fights Tyson Fury. And then I think at that point, people then will start to respect and love Daniel Triple D Dubois. But you guys tell me what you think about this counterpunch and what Daniel has said about Oleksandr Usyk. He feels that he's worn and torn. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch.